On April 5, 2025, America witnessed a massive wave of protests. This was not a drill. From coast to coast, people took to the streets. They called it the hands-off protests. Their target, the Trump administration and its policies. The protests weren't just an American phenomenon, they went global. Major cities around the world saw similar demonstrations. London, Paris, Tokyo, people everywhere echoed the same message, hands off. The protests were impossible to ignore. State capitals were flooded, federal buildings were surrounded, even city halls weren't safe. The message was clear. This was bigger than just one city or state. This was about the direction of America itself. And the people were making their voices heard. The sheer scale of the protests was staggering. Organizers claimed millions participated across the U.S. While official numbers are still being debated, one thing's for sure, this was huge. It was a powerful display of dissent, cutting across geographic and demographic lines. The message was clear. America was not happy. Who were these protesters, and what did they want? The hands-off protests were a coalition effort. A diverse range of groups came together, united by their shared concerns. Civil rights activists marched alongside veterans. Women's rights advocates stood shoulder to shoulder with LGBTQ+ groups. Labor unions joined forces with environmental organizations. This was a true cross-section of America, standing together in opposition. One of the leading organizations behind the protests was Indivisible. This grassroots movement, formed in the wake of Trump's election, has been a vocal critic of the administration's policies. They were joined by a plethora of other groups, from established civil rights organizations to newly formed activist networks. This wasn't just a protest, it was a movement. The protesters had three core demands. First, they wanted an end to what they saw as rampant corruption within the Trump administration. They pointed to the influence of corporate lobbyists and the administration's cozy relationship with wealthy donors. Second, they demanded a halt to cuts to vital federal programs like Medicaid and Social Security. They argued that these programs were essential for the well-being of millions of Americans. Finally, they called for an end to the administration's attacks on marginalized communities. The hands-off protests weren't just about marching and chanting. They were about giving voice to the anxieties and frustrations of millions of Americans, and those voices were loud and clear. From the steps of the Lincoln Memorial to the streets of small-town America, people spoke out against the Trump administration's policies. Key figures from the Democratic Party lent their voices to the protests. Progressive firebrand Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez delivered a fiery speech in her home district of New York City, calling for a reawakening of the American conscience. Veteran Congressman John Lewis, an icon of the civil rights movement, spoke of the need to redeem the soul of America. And former Vice President Joe Biden, in a rare public appearance, urged Americans to choose hope over fear. These speeches, broadcast live on cable news and shared widely on social media, galvanized the protesters and further amplified their message of resistance. The protests weren't without controversy. In Lafayette, Indiana, a tense situation arose when a man, frustrated by protesters blocking his truck, retrieved a gun from his vehicle. While police detained the man and determined he had not pointed the weapon at anyone, the incident made national headlines and fueled anxieties about potential violence at future protests. The incident served as a stark reminder of the deep divisions within American society and the volatility of the current political climate. One figure loomed large over the protests, though he was thousands of miles away: Elon Musk. As Trump's hand-picked head of the Department of Government Efficiency, Musk has become a lightning rod for criticism. His ambitious plans to overhaul the federal government, often at the expense of long-standing institutions and programs, have made him a target for the hands-off movement. Musk's approach to government efficiency has been nothing short of radical. He's slashed budgets, eliminated departments, and automated countless government functions. While his supporters argue that he's simply cutting waste and streamlining bureaucracy, his critics see a more sinister agenda at play. They accuse him of dismantling essential services, undermining democratic institutions, and consolidating power in the hands of the few. Of particular concern to protesters is Musk's impact on the federal workforce. His push to reduce the size and scope of government has led to mass layoffs and a hiring freeze across multiple agencies. The result has been a demoralized and depleted federal workforce, struggling to keep up with its remaining responsibilities. This, coupled with Musk's controversial decision to end remote work for most federal employees, has further fueled resentment and anxiety among those who remain.